Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 84. We've got reaction from the Barbars game last weekend, and of course we're discussing Eddie Jones's selection for his 23 for the first test in South Africa. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry it's been a little while. I was obviously away. Dan was pretty busy, so we didn't manage to get one out last week. But of course, lots did happen, and we're going to go into all of that in just a moment. Before we do, of course, I'm joined by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hello, buddy. How was France? How was your holiday away?
It was nice. It was wet, but I think that's what you get when you go to central France in May. But it was nice. It was enjoyable. It was relaxing. Not a lot of Wi-Fi. I was sat in the shed to watch the Barbars game on 3G.
How was the streaming?
Intermittent, but I saw enough. I saw enough that I can discuss it with you today, so we will definitely get onto that. Just before we do, though, we've had a message, this one on Twitter, and interestingly, it comes from a Kiwi who says, "Hey guys, Just a brief message to let you know I really love your England Rugby Pod, plus I'm a bloody Kiwi. Please keep them coming. I enjoy sitting down in the quiet of the evening with my cup of tea and hearing the deliberations from up north. Thanks so much for making your podcast available on Twitter." And that's from Matthew. So Matthew Shaw, thank you for your message. I didn't know that we'd specifically made them available on Twitter, but great that we have. Dan, that's Twitter box to you.
That's one.
But yeah, no, great that we're being listened to from around the globe, and obviously, yeah, to hear positive thoughts from a Kiwi is it's nice to hear. I wonder what he thinks about Brad Shields.
Yeah. I wonder whether I mean, let's face it, Brad Shields is a great player. I don't think the Kiwis as a whole are absolutely gutted they're missing him. Yeah, it'd be nice to be available, but it's not as if they're short in that department. It's not as if they're short in any department.
No, although it was said that if he'd stuck around, he would likely have got capped by the Barbars this year.
The Barbars?
Not the Barbars. I mean, he might have done. No, the All Blacks. He might have done.
Well, yeah, that's fairly easy to say.
To be honest, I wouldn't have said it though. Is that not basically saying we're gutted he's gone because we really want him when it's too late? Wouldn't you be more inclined to be like, fair enough, he was never going to get an All Blacks cap, so he's gone to the second best option? Do you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you play those kind of mind games if you're the coach?
Well, it depends. It depends. I guess it's one of two ways. It might be saying to him, in their head, and I am massively second guessing here, they may be thinking, All Blacks was his first choice, although in fairness to him, he has said England was. And they may have said, look, if it hung about. But do you know what? The truth is, the end of last season, Brad Shields probably wasn't playing at the best he'd ever played. I mean, last year he was probably playing better. So if he wasn't capped then, why he'd suddenly be capped now? I find it, but you never know. Either way, I guess it's irrelevant. We've got him, and we're very happy to have him.
Yeah,
I think
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I think all the chat about how people complaining about this is we're not setting a precedent here. The All Blacks, the All Blacks started this. When they basically built their team out of non-New Zealanders by going to all the islands. So I don't think anyone can really complain about it. The guy has every right to represent England. And if that's the choice that he's made for whatever reason, whether it's because he thought he wouldn't get capped by the All Blacks and he would by England, it doesn't really matter. It's now he's with England now. He can't go anywhere else, and it's now a question of whether or not he can, make a difference. And I think it would be interesting to see if he does. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on in South Africa. But before we get on to that.
Just quickly, whilst we're on an All Blacks theme, have you seen that All or Nothing?
I haven't.
Sort of
I want to see it. Did you watch it?
I've watched it. It's really good. The All Blacks as a team, as a group, as an organisation, however you want to do it, they're cool. They're a good. They come across as a really good fun.
This is like Living with the Lions, but for the All Blacks.
Do you know what? It's not. It doesn't give away that much. The in-depth do you suddenly get a really good feeling of the All Blacks camp? Not really, no. But it's still a brilliant watch. I still recommend it. It sort of skirts around. It doesn't really go into massive depth about sort of the All Blacks culture. It doesn't actually give away that much while still making like a really interesting show on and a really interesting viewing on sort of the All Blacks setup.
What is it? Is it on Netflix?
It's on Amazon Prime, actually.
Amazon Prime. Well, there you go, guys. If you have got Amazon Prime, check it out. If you haven't, I believe
definitely check it out.
You can get certainly a free 30-day trial or something. All these guys seem to have it. We're not endorsing it because we make money. We don't. But I have it. You've obviously got it, and so recommend. There's a few good things on there as well. So check that out and get your free get your free trial.
Sure, you're not making money out of this. Something I don't know about.
Maybe we should be, but no, unfortunately, we're not. Not yet. Not until you lot spread the word a little further afield and we get a few more listeners. But in the meantime, we've got rugby to talk about. And before we move on to the South Africa tour, which is obviously going to be the focus of the next few weeks, there is a little matter of the Barbars game, which was, I think there's quite a lot to talk about here. I mean, we I think have quite different opinions.
I might have, since our chat, I might have come around to your way of thinking a bit more.
Okay, well let's dive into it a little bit then. So my way of thinking was a Barbars game is never going to be a true Test match because of the way that the Barbars choose to play, but the way that they're expected to play as well. You know,
of course,
if they happen to get together a side that's that style of player, the kind of the flair guys that are going to go out there and they're all about running in tries. It's very difficult for a team like England, who are about to go on tour, a Test match, 3-series Test match tour, to they want to go into that game and play it like a Test match. Because that's what they're kind of training for. It doesn't help them to go out there and say, right, let's go and play sevens, but with 15 men on the pitch. Whereas that's what the Barbars do. So I think it's always going to be difficult to find the right way to play against a team like the Barbars whilst maintaining, So the next thing is then to look at the scoreline and say, well, hang on, despite all of this, England still managed to put, 48, was it? 47 points?
So the scoreline itself doesn't actually bother me so much. It was, the Saracens Exeter final the day before. We were missing lots of players. Like you say, the Barbars had a great team as well. It's going to be very hard to find how to play. But I thought there were some positives, but I also thought there were some negatives from it, which I think is actually quite hard on some of the players. The likes of a Henry Trinder didn't have a great game.
No,
has he now ruined the chance of a further England thing, whereas not necessarily been given the right environment to shine in?
I think he probably has, but I think Eddie Jones is the kind of guy. I mean, I guess the big question is how many changes do you want to make between now and 2019? And the answer is you don't really want to be making too many. You want to know you want to have your squad locked down. So has he missed out on an opportunity for this World Cup? I think so.
I mean, I'm not sure he necessarily had a great opportunity for it.
But I think he's still young enough that he needs to just carry on doing what he was doing in the Premiership. And I think if he goes out next season and he's player of the Premiership and has a storming season, then sure, injuries and everything else, you're going to get looked at again. So I don't think it's like back in the day where it's almost like on principle you miss it. If you don't perform, then no one wants to look at you again. I think he's got a lot of work. He's made it a lot harder for himself, and whether that's his fault or not is kind of irrelevant because unfortunately that was the platform he was given. And yeah, it's tough because it's not, as you say, it's not the right kind of game to really show your kind of Test match mettle, which is what we want to see from England players. It's very difficult, as I said at the beginning, as an individual, I think it's very difficult to ignore what the opposition are doing and just focus on your game plan. And that's almost one of the complaints that we've had of England is when over the years is when they've attempted to say this is our game plan and we're going to stick to it no matter what.
Yeah,
which is kind of what you have to do against a Barbar side to get the most out of the game for you as a team. But there's a very good chance that you end up losing because of it.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, to get most out of you for a team, there's also a limit to how much you can get out of it because of the fact that you're missing so many players. But there were some positives from it. I thought George Ford, and actually at the end of Leicester as well, I think George Ford is hitting a vein of form, which I think is a big positive.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some. See, actually, weirdly, and we'll come on to this when we talk about the test. But I think he's actually been given quite a bit of room to prove himself, because I think that Cipriani, who's possibly his biggest rival right now for that 10 shirt, even if he's being used in South Africa, I think it would be more likely he'd be used at fullback. And we'll come on to why later on. But therefore, I think George Ford has at least until the Six Nations before anyone starts putting pressure on him again. Oh, sorry, the Autumn Internationals, before anyone starts putting pressure on him again for the shirt. So it's great that he's back in form, because it would be a real shame if he was out of form and there wasn't really the cover for him. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it was mixed. He kind of missed a few important tackles early on, and you were thinking, "Oh God, it's going to happen again." And then suddenly, it was almost like he was like, "Okay, I'm getting that one back." And I think he chased Chris Ashton down about 3 times. And Chris Ashton's supposed to be a theory a world class winger, a try scoring machine. You would think, therefore, pretty pacey. And George Ford isn't renowned for his pace, and yet it was George Ford that chased him down about 3 times. So I'm not sure how Chris Ashton feels about that, but that.
Well, Chris Ashton can't really complain. He had a good day out. He
was gifted the first one. I think he was gifted about 2 of them, wasn't he?
Well, he was gifted the first one, but then he also made a break to set up a lovely try himself as well. It was Chris Robshaw had an uncharacteristically poor game, and he actually had a really poor game. He missed some fairly sort of basic tackles for a back row.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I just feel like we talked about it.
We should throw him under the bus for it, though.
Maybe not throw him under the bus, but we've been talking about this for a little while now, and we've been saying, he's a workhorse. He puts in the effort, but does he deliver the goods? And the answer is probably not all the time. And we've said the same thing of Mike Brown, which is that if you were to look at a graph of performance versus age, there's obviously that peak, probably somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s. I don't know how old they are now, but I feel like both of them have gone through that peak, which means that they're now only getting worse. And that doesn't mean that they're getting bad, but they're not getting better. And is that what you want in the 18 months leading up to a World Cup?
I think you can. I think if you look at someone like a Richie McCaw, I think you can develop as a player and add value in other areas. Are they doing that?
Absolutely, but I think Richie McCaw's graph would look very different, because I think those areas where he develops would have him improving.
Yeah, but quite possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, Richie McCaw was just one of the finest guys to have ever walked the field. I mean, he's an absolute legend. So I don't mean it's fair to compare with him, but
I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I think Robshaw didn't look his best. We're not throwing him under the bus because he's getting another chance, as we're going to discuss, while he's out in South Africa. So clearly, from Eddie Jones's point of view, and that's the key one at the moment. He's not been written off. So it's up to him. It's up to him to show that he, should be where he is, and we'll see what happens. But as you said, uncharacteristically poor from him. I thought Tom Curry was pretty useful against the Barbars. I think Tom
Curry's played really well, and I mean we're going to go on to this, but I'm really happy he's starting against South Africa.
I agree.
I think Tom Curry looks good.
Out and out 7. Does what a 7 should do. Gets stuck in, gets turnovers, makes tackles. Kind of like what Maro Itoje did when he first came on the scene, and hasn't really been doing as much.
Well, for Saracens,
England,
he has.
For England.
For England.
And again, he's one that we're hoping that the Saracens' results, somehow inspire these guys to to just bring that little bit extra again. So if we can see that from him, and we've got Tom Curry and they're doing it as well, that could be a very different. I said throughout the Six Nations, I said the back row for me was the big problem. We weren't competitive. The breakdown, we weren't attacking enough from the back, and I think that's going to look very different over the course of the next few weeks. As long as no one gets injured. Not talking about anyone in particular, Mr. Vunipola.
Billy, stay away from those bloody Aussie rule balls, please.
Right.
So we called this, mate. We absolutely called this. We said, and why people don't listen to us, I have no idea. It's as if my opinion is not the most important thing in the world to Eddie, and that just seems ridiculous. But we said that Billy, as soon as he finishes playing, should literally be wrapped in bubble wrap, carried off the pitch, and not allowed to do anything else. We said that, and what happens? They let him make his own decision, and he injures himself kicking an Aussie rules ball. So they need to start listening to us.
Well, yeah, and what's he doing kicking an Aussie rules ball? Kick a rugby ball, mate. You don't play Aussie rules.
And just don't worry about kicking, Billy.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need you to do the kicking, my friend. You've got one job to do, and it involves boshing. But he's going to be okay. He's fit and healthy again, so it's just a question of whether he can maintain his health, because obviously we've seen him on the sidelines rather a lot of late. So fingers crossed, touch wood, and all that. So before we move off the VAR bars, firstly, Daly at fullback. Thoughts? I mean, I personally, I think we've said it before, but I personally think that Elliot Daly is world class, and I think you can play him anywhere.
Yeah, I like the look of Elliot Daly at fullback.
And when Anthony Watson's back?
I still like the look of Elliot Daly at fullback.
And when Jack Noel's back?
Watson as a winger. And so for me, I like Elliot Daly. Elliot Daly to me has to play, and then I think it's between sort of Jack Noel, Watson, Johnny May, Benny, whoever else to fight out for those two wing positions.
Yeah, fine. Well, I mean, that's not a bad problem to have, is it?
No, not at all. And if you've got, for example, a sort of a Watson on the one wing, and let's say, for argument's sake, Watson and Noel on the wing, you've actually got three people who can cover all three positions in theory.
Yeah, and then also depending on what happens with Danny Cipriani, whether he's starting or he's on the bench, you've got flexibility there as well to move things around, because we know that Elliot Daly can play on the wing, and I'm sure he would do a great job in the centres as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think lots of options there, which brings me on to the big question: what the fuck is Mike Brown doing on the wing?
So the thought with the Mike Brown thing is that with a Jack Noel gone, you need somebody who's going to look for the workload. Jack Noel will pop up everywhere. He will work hard. He will pick off the ruck. He will run off for 9, run off for 10, run off for 12. Johnny May is probably more of an out-and-out winger, which is absolutely fine. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. So the argument is, from Eddie's point of view, I think, is Mike Brown is somebody more who will go and look for that work. And absolutely he will. Let's make no mistake. Mike Brown's not scared to get involved. He's not at all shy to be in the action. But is he the most effective person in that position? I would say the answer is absolutely no.
Categorically.
Yeah, completely. If that's what you're looking for, why not go for a Matt Banahan, for example, somebody who's on really good form, somebody who's going to have more impact playing that role? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the term leadership banded about, as one of the reasons.
I'm sick of it.
I don't think that's needed. I don't feel like the backs have too many major issues.
You've got George Ford, Owen Farrell, Elliot Daly. Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. I think there's absolutely no, when you were talking about justifying him at the back, as that kind of leader, as a really experienced fullback who has, his vision gives him the entire field in front of him, and he can help position people and all that kind of stuff. You can almost get behind that idea, despite not thinking that's the right call. But I think as soon as you move him to the wing, it's like, well, now he's not offering anything anymore. He wasn't, in my opinion, he wasn't really offering much at fullback. But I kind of got the thinking. Now I'm just like, I don't know what's going on there.
Well, it's probably the right place, like we were saying, to move on to this team selection for South Africa.
Well, yeah,
it's not picked from four.
How is he being called up again on the wing?
Yeah, so the wing thing against the Barbars sort of a bit like whatever, and people, I must admit, I dismissed it a bit. People were like, "Oh, is that what Eddie's looking at him for?" I was thinking, no, he's just giving him a run out. But
yeah, he wants to look at Elliot Daly at fullback, so he's just keeping him in there and filling a gap. And
yeah, but obviously that is what he was looking at him for. I just don't get it. I don't get Eddie's selection policy at the moment. There are so many good people being left behind, being left out.
Maybe, and I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but maybe it's because Eddie Jones knows that with Anthony Watson and Jack Noel injured, both of them are coming back into the fold, and actually Mike Brown will be leaving soon. And so he's thinking, and this is where the leadership thing comes in, and he's thinking, look, actually, I'm not looking for a new winger. I've got my wingers. I've got some backup as well. So I'll put Mike Brown on there because of for the reasons you've just said about him getting stuck in. And if it's not working, I'll pull him off and put on Denny Solomona.
So my only thought, so I half agree with you. My only thought to that is, if that was it, that would be a bit too negative. But there is a part of me thinking, is he there just to help out Elliot Daly a bit? If Elliot Daly is going to be the 15, is there some value to having Mike Brown? Yeah, if they're constantly chatting.
Almost like a handover period.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite possibly.
Elliot, you might want to be standing there or just help position me or something a bit.
Quite possibly. I mean, let's quickly go through the team and then we can talk about it. So for those of you that haven't had a chance to check yet, so up front you've got Mako, Jamie George, and Kyle Sinclair. Front three, pretty happy with that.
I like that. That looks good to me.
You've got Mara Toje, and it would have been Joe Launchbury, but he's actually now injured. They would have been a great pairing, but I think in Nick Isekwe, particularly given his experience with Saracens, I think that's the right choice to join Maro in the second row.
Yeah, I like it. That looks good as well. That looks a potential. I mean, there's so many options in the second row, but Nick Isekwe's got a real good chance here. Yeah. He's got a real good chance of making a shout for that position, becoming his own.
And then back row, Chris Robshaw, who we've got question marks over, but Tom Curry, who we're really happy to see, and of course Billy is back, which I think again we're pretty happy about. So, other than Chris Robshaw, I'm pretty happy with that.
I'm not that upset about Chris Robshaw.
Well, so I was then going to say to you, because of the options on the bench, I think okay, I get what he's doing there, and I think if it's not working, I think Chris Robshaw is going to put in the hard work. I think he's the guy that gets replaced because you've got Brad Shields on the bench. So I think Robshaw gets replaced by Brad Shields. I think Billy Vunipola, because he's not at full fitness yet, he gets replaced by Nathan Hughes. This, however, creates a little problem. Luke Cowan-Dickey, Joe Marler and Harry Williams replace the front row. That's simple. But we haven't got a second row replacement. So whilst I think both Maro and Nick Isekwe can last the 80 minutes, if the second row gets injured, either Robshaw, Tom Curry, Billy Vunipola, Nathan Hughes or Brad Shields needs to cover second row.
I think Brad Shields has played a bit of second row.
Has he? Okay.
I think Brad Shields is. So I had a look at that. He's not a second row,
but he's done it before.
My sources have also told me that they've done a few scrum down training sessions with Brad Shields at second row. And by my sources, I can't remember if it was something like the Independent or Telegraph or something.
Good source, solid, reputable source.
Yeah.
I like it. It was either that or the Daily Star.
Sources only for me.
Nice. Okay, well, so that answers that question then. So then moving on to the backs, we've talked about it already, but Elliot Daly at fullback. You've got Johnny May and Mike Brown on the wings. We've said enough.
Don't like it.
Yeah, we've said enough about this already, but it is what it is. Ford and Farrell, 10-12. Ben Youngs is back, and he's back at 9, which is great. And obviously, him and Ford playing together week in, week out. And then and then Henry Slade at 13, which you've been calling for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I like Henry Slade at 13. So my issue actually is not necessarily the science. My issue is with that bench.
Yes.
So Ben Spencer ahead of Robson.
Yeah.
To me, makes no sense.
Agreed.
Piers Francis. Why, when you've got Danny Cipriani and Piers Wazowski, two of the form players in England, and probably in Europe at the moment, two of the top form players, why have they been missed out? Why is Piers Francis there ahead of them? I genuinely don't get it. I don't even understand a scenario where that makes more sense. There must be one in Eddie's head, and Eddie knows more about rugby than me. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they're the two for me. Other than Mike Brown starting, I'm pretty happy with the 15. Otherwise, but yeah, I agree on the subs bench. All looks good until you hit the that particular area, and yeah, I don't get those choices, particularly Piers Francis, for the reasons you just said. There are two. I mean, I guess Cipriani's never going to be a centre replacement. But there are other options. But there are options to move people around. So I'd have 100% had Cipriani in there. I thought he looked really good when he came on against the Barbars. Under difficult circumstances.
Do you know why he looked really good though against the Barbars?
Tell me.
Because he is really good.
Oh, interesting.
That's why. And maybe Eddie needs to start looking at that.
But this is the reason I was saying. And although Danny Cipriani's not involved, I feel like any involvement he does have is going to be around that 15, that sort of Elliot Daly and Mike Brown corner. And therefore, I think that if Cipriani is involved, he'll be at 15.
Maybe.
And I think, therefore, George Ford is safe for now.
Yeah,
if George Ford is terrible and he's making it difficult, I mean, I guess you've still got the option of moving Owen Farrell to 10, but I think that's probably not what Eddie wants. I think Owen Farrell
I would be frustrated if Danny Cipriani goes on that tour and doesn't get a genuine opportunity to prove himself.
I agree. I think it would be a shame.
I think that would be a massive shame, and it would annoy me a bit. Same with Dan Robson, in fairness.
Yeah, I mean, the replacements. I think the issue with the replacements bench for me is it doesn't feel, certainly in the backs, it doesn't feel like he's picked finishers. It feels like he's picked subs.
But Piers Francis one, I just don't get. And this is nothing against Piers Francis. It's just against it. If you look at, I mean, I would say both Danny Cipriani and Lazowski. Or Lazowski. Somebody keeps telling me off for pronouncing it right, and I'm not sure whether it's Lazowski or Lazowski. But let's say Lazowski. Lazowski. Oh, nice. Okay, so let's say Lazowski. I think they're better players. I think they're both better players than Piers Francis.
I agree. I think either one of them would have looked better in that lineup. But it is what it is. Maybe he's saying, look, I don't want the same 23 for every game. So maybe we'll see something different in game 2. I'm clutching a little bit, but I agree with you. I really hope that we see. Certainly, I hope we see Cipriani on this tour. I think it would be a massive shame if he goes all the way out there after everything he's been through to kind of get back involved again, and after looking good against the Barbars. It would be a massive shame if he goes out there and doesn't get a chance.
I think it would be ridiculous.
But going back to the team as a whole and trying to just kind of go back to being positive, because that's what we're ultimately here to do. I don't hate it.
No, I don't. I think there's lots of it. I really like the look of.
I like the starting 15. I'm quite excited about, and particularly the back row, and even with Chris Robshaw, I just feel like with Billy back and Tom Curry in there doing what a 7 should be doing. Maybe this gives Chris Robshaw the opportunity to focus on what a 6 should be doing.
And Robshaw can do that job. And Robshaw can be brilliant, and he can have massive value. I like the look of that back row. I really like Elliot Daly at fullback. I like the fact Henry Slade's got another chance, bearing in mind what he's done this season. Nick Kasekwe, fair enough, that's through injury, but brilliant. Yeah, overall, I do like it. There's nothing I'm not, I think I've just focused on the negatives more this episode, but I'm not feeling negative. I think that is a team that can go out there and win.
Oh, 100. Look, if Wales playing the way that they did, and I know it's a different South Africa side, but if they can win playing that kind of rugby, I would be very disappointed.
About that match.
This what? Sorry.
I think we need to not talk about that Wales South Africa match. It wasn't one of the just worst displays of international rugby I've ever seen.
Well, my point is, I feel good. I feel like this is a team that can get England back into winning form. They have to do it. That's essential.
Yes.
Obviously, it is a massive task. I know South Africa have had their problems, and I know that 6 months ago we were kind of almost laughing at the idea of South Africa trying to defend against England. But a lot's changed since then on both sides. So, both sides with lots to prove. And England have never won a tour down in South Africa. So, it's a massive opportunity for these guys to just sort of send a message home to say, okay, look, we had a bit of a blip in the Six Nations, but we're over it. And we're back to the same England team that we were before that Six Nations when everyone was raving about us. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Let's hope so. And I'm inclined to agree with you, mate. I think there's good enough players out there. I think we're a good enough team. I like is it Wisemantel in the attack. I quite like what he's been saying in the press. I'm interested to see what our attack looks like. Actually, I'm not interested in a sceptical way. I'm interested in I think we could be looking good.
Yeah. Okay. Question for you: England go out to South Africa, 3-0, smash it, back on winning form. Everyone's raving again. What happens to Dylan Hartley?
Dylan Hartley may have seen his last game. If that's the case, he may have seen his last game.
Because Eddie's been pretty, he's been a real Dylan Hartley stalwart, hasn't he? He's been pretty clear that in his opinion, Dylan Hartley is his man.
Yeah, I'm not saying, but I'm not saying Andrew, but if England go out there, win 3-0, and both Jamie George and Luke Cowan-Dickie do really well, because I think that's another key point, it's going to be very hard to justify bringing Dylan Hartley back in. I know Eddie.
He's changed his mind before, so it doesn't. He's willing to do it, but obviously, just it's a massive change to say I'm getting rid of my captain 18 months before a World Cup. But we've said as well, has he been just waiting to make that change all along? Just waiting for the right moment. Has Dylan Hartley been in there to kind of almost help mould the new captain, who is clearly going to be Owen Farrell?
Yeah, and that could well be a scenario that's happening. Could that be what's happening with Mike Brown playing to help mould Elliot Daly? Not mould Elliot Daly, but help.
Just what handover.
Yeah,
I think I would be very surprised if, with a fit Anthony Watson and a fit Jack Noel, if you're still looking at Mike Brown for either fullback or wing, or obviously therefore anywhere. So I feel like this is Mike Brown's final foray for England.
You know what's going to happen? He's going to play brilliantly out there, isn't he?
Look, if he does, fair play to him.
Great to him.
Going to make life different. I'm not convinced that he can do enough anyway, because I just think, how do you look past Noel and Watson? Both Lions. But, if Mike Brown can go out there, have a stormer and kind of bow out, on a high, brilliant. And if he does have an absolute stormer and Eddie does decide to pick him, then you kind of are going, well, I don't really, fair enough, as long as he keeps doing it. But I don't see it happening. I think we'll see him coming off reasonably early, if short of injuries. By early, I mean probably not far into the second half or at half time.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to this tour. I think England have needed an opportunity, and anyone who thinks that that's what they had against the Barbars, that wasn't an opportunity to kind of put right the wrongs of the Six Nations.
No, it wasn't England.
We talked about it in the last episode. We said, is there any value in having Barbars games before a tour? And I think that result, I think yes and no. I think as long as you're not reading too much into them, I think Eddie Jones will have gained some useful information, particularly from some of the guys that haven't had much opportunity. Your Tom Curry, he probably wouldn't be here, or he certainly probably wouldn't be starting if that Barbars game hadn't happened and he hadn't put in that performance.
True.
So I think there's definitely value in that respect, but I think you have to just take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, and I think the result certainly isn't important. So an interesting one for you. Does that reset England's, I don't think they've got a win streak, but if they did have, would it reset it because it's not a capped match?
What do you mean?
Well, so let's say that England had won every game in the Six
Nations.
Nations.
No, that doesn't count. No.
Right, so I knew it wasn't a capped game, but I didn't know how that affected a win streak.
That wouldn't count towards a win streak. No, it doesn't count as an international. So.
Fine. Well, that answers that question then.
It does.
So I think there's probably not a lot more. We're sort of going over the same things now, but big day on Saturday. Obviously, we're going to get back to live episode. Well, our version of a semi-live episode. You'll probably get it on Saturday night or Sunday morning, but at least you'll have our pre, during, and post-game analysis, which we've been told is quite a nice way to hear. A roundup of the game. It's a bit better. If you do it all at the end, everyone has the same opinion. I think what I like about the way we do the live episodes is the opinion changes massively.
You can watch us do our best at the end, cover our arse on our massively changing opinions with Matt, which always makes it more fun.
Before we say goodbye, guys, Dan, final question for you: predictions.
England's win. I think it will be quite close. I think England will put 25-21 to England.
Okay, I'm going to go 26-17
to England.
To England, obviously. Of course. This is the England Rugby Pod. We believe they're going to win the World Cup and 3-0 in South Africa for the first time ever. Well, there you have it, guys. Obviously, come back Saturday. Well, Sunday morning is probably the best time when you're lying in bed. Have a little listen, see what our thoughts are and how they compare with your own. But as always, thanks so much for listening. Do get in touch with us. More and more of you are doing so, and we love hearing from you, which is great. That's on Twitter at England Rugby Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can email us, englandrugbypod@gmail.com. We've got a website, www.englandrugbypod.com. Remember, please, if you get the opportunity, if you haven't done it already, rate us, review us on iTunes. We're also on Acast. We're on Spotify, and apparently we're on Twitter too. So, there's lots of ways to listen. Get involved, spread the word. We're ramping up now. We've got about 18 months to go, so we really want to start getting as many of you. Well, not as many of you. You're already there, but all your friends and family. We want to get everyone listening and build up this community before next year. Join us again, guys, and keep listening.
Brilliant, guys. Thanks so much for listening.